The great hall was loud with voices. Voices shouting bids, voices laughing, voices whispering behind closed fists. It was a place where things and beings were bought and sold, where hopes were crushed beneath the weight of gold coins, and where the proud often found themselves stripped of dignity. At the center of this chaos stood Karelsha. She was tall, far taller than most creatures in the hall, and broad in every way. Her skin was a deep bronze that shimmered faintly under the harsh lights. Her hair was thick and black, pulled back into tight braids that fell down her back. Her eyes were a shining gold, sharp and watchful, but now they were dimmed with something heavier, shame. Karelsha was from the Torvani people, a race known across many star systems for their strength and honor. Torvani women were large and powerful warriors, but that same strength made her undesirable here. The buyers whispered to each other that she was too big, too tall, too strong, too dangerous. None wanted to make an offer. The platform beneath her feet felt cold and empty, and the space around her seemed colder still. One by one, potential buyers passed her over without a single word. She did not cry. She did not plead. She simply stood, tall and silent, despite the stares and sneers. In the crowd, many watched and judged. Some laughed openly, others avoided looking at her at all. The traders saw her as a burden, an expensive possession with no profit. But there was one person who watched differently. Commander Elias Vorn stood quietly near the back of the crowd. He was a human, with a calm face and eyes that missed nothing. Unlike the others, he did not laugh or whisper. Instead, he studied Karelsha with a careful look, as if trying to understand something they could not see. Elias was not here to buy slaves. He was a scout for the Terran Frontier Alliance sent to explore, find survivors, and bring hope to those who had none. He knew that value was not always in what others saw on the surface. As the auctioneer called for final bids, the room grew restless. The silence around Karelsha became louder than the noise, and still, no one offered anything. The auctioneer's voice raised in frustration. "Last chance. Anyone willing to bid for the Torvani warrior?" No answer. A few more moments passed. Karelsha's chest rose and fell with slow, steady breaths. Her hands clenched at her sides, but she did not move. Finally, Elias stepped forward. The room went quiet, then murmured in surprise. "I offer 10,000 credits," Elias said, clearly, his voice cutting through the noise. The auctioneer blinked, then quickly raised his gavel. "Sold. To the human Commander Elias Vorn." A few people gasped. Others muttered curses. Karelsha blinked in shock. No one had ever made an offer before. She had expected only rejection. The guard stepped forward and released her bonds. Elias did not approach immediately. Instead, he waited for her to step down from the platform on her own. When she did, he met her gaze. "I'm not here to own you," Elias said. "I want you on my ship, as my crew member. You have value that others cannot see." Karelsha studied him, confused and wary. "Why would you want me?" Elias smiled slightly. "Because strength is not just muscle. It's courage, resilience, and honor. You have those." Her golden eyes searched his face. There was no mockery, no pity, only respect. "Come with me," he said. That day, Karelsha left the auction hall behind. The ship called the Resolute was nothing like the places Karelsha had known before. It was smaller than the great warships, of her people but faster, and built for endurance. Inside, the air smelled of metal and oil, mixed with the faint scent of fresh bread baking in the galley. The crew was a mix of humans and aliens, each with their own story. Elias introduced Karelsha to them one by one. There was Tessa, a human engineer with a mechanical arm, who smiled warmly and showed Karelsha the engine room. There was Jorlek, a small, quick alien from the planet Rinthar, who could hack any system and loved to tease everyone. And there was Dr. Amina, the medic, quiet but kind, who checked Karelsha's health with gentle hands. Karelsha listened to their stories and shared little of her own. She still carried the weight of rejection. It was difficult to believe she belonged here. That night, as the Resolute sailed out of the Virex 9 system, Karelsha stood by the window, watching stars streak past like silver fireflies. Elias came to stand beside her. "You'll find your place," he said softly. "This crew doesn't care what you look like, they care who you are." She looked at him, the first flicker of hope shining in her eyes. "Why me?" she asked quietly. "Because no one else did," he answered. "And because sometimes the strongest ones are those who have been rejected." The stars outside blurred as the ship jumped into faster-than-light travel. Karelsha felt something shift inside her, a seed of confidence taking root. For the first time in a long time, she did not feel alone. The next days were filled with hard work and learning. Karelsha trained with the crew, learning the ship's systems and how to pilot the Resolute through asteroid fields and unstable space lanes. Her strength, once seen as a problem, became an asset. She lifted heavy crates with ease and repaired damaged parts no one else could reach. Slowly, the crew began to look at her not as a giant burden but as a valuable teammate. Yet, Karelsha still struggled with her past. Memories of the auction, the rejection, and her clan's betrayal haunted her nights. One evening, Elias found her in the ship's quiet observation deck. "You don't have to carry your past alone," he said gently. Karelsha turned away, her voice low. "They made me believe I was worthless." "No," Elias said firmly. "They made a mistake." She looked at him, really looked, and saw a kindness she had almost forgotten. The long journey ahead was uncertain, but for the first time, Karelsha felt ready to face it. Because somewhere beyond the stars and beyond judgment, there was a place where she belonged, and it was waiting for her. The Resolute glided silently through the dark reaches of space, stars streaking past the viewports like distant fireflies. Inside the ship, the air buzzed softly with the hum of machinery and quiet voices. Karelsha moved carefully through the corridors, her large frame folding into the narrow passageways with surprising grace. Since the day Elias bought her at the auction, she had been learning a new way of life. This was not a place of chains or orders shouted through clenched teeth. It was a place of trust, hard work, and unspoken respect. But Karelsha was still unsure of herself. She remembered the cold glances from the auction hall, the whispered words about her size, the way people looked away as if she were a dangerous animal. Could she truly belong here? Her thoughts were interrupted by the sound of footsteps behind her. "Tessa," she said, turning to face the human engineer. Tessa's mechanical arm gleamed under the ship's lights as she wiped her hands on a rag. "Hey, Karelsha." Tessa smiled warmly. "You're getting stronger every day. I'm impressed." Karelsha nodded, feeling a small spark of pride. "Thank you. It is different here. I am not a slave." "No, you're not," Tessa said firmly. "You're one of us." Karelsha looked around the room filled with other crew members, each with scars, cybernetic limbs, or stories of exile. These were not perfect people, but they were people who had found a place to belong. Elias entered the room quietly, his eyes meeting Karelsha's. "Good morning, everyone," he said. "Today, we have a mission." The crew gathered around the central table as Elias laid out a holographic map of the asteroid belt near the Rimstar cluster. A small colony had gone silent. The Resolute was to investigate and, if possible, help any survivors. Karelsha listened carefully. This was not a mission to capture or destroy. It was a mission to save. As the ship changed course and prepared for the jump, Karelsha felt a strange excitement. For the first time, she was part of something bigger, a crew that counted on her, a mission with meaning. The asteroid belt was a dangerous place. Huge rocks floated in slow orbits, some spinning wildly, some cracked and broken from ancient impacts. The Resolute maneuvered skillfully through the maze, its engines whispering as they adjusted course to avoid collision. Karelsha stood at the observation window, her hands pressed against the cool glass. The vastness of space stretched endlessly before her, but it was the small broken colony on one asteroid that captured her attention. This place looks abandoned, Jorlek said, stepping beside her. The small alien's eyes glowed faintly in the dim light. But the signals say someone is still alive. Karelsha nodded slowly. We must find them. The Resolute docked at the colony's worn spaceport, the airlock hissing as it opened. The crew stepped carefully into the silent corridors, lights flickering in the empty halls. Karelsha felt her heartbeat quicken. This was a place where hope had once lived and maybe still did. Suddenly, a series of alarms blared through the colony system. The ground shook, dust falling from the cracked ceiling. The crew froze. "Pirate drones!" Elias shouted. "They've set a trap." From the shadows, small flying machines appeared, their weapons charging. The crew scrambled for cover, but the drones were fast and deadly. Karelsha did not hesitate. With a roar, she charged forward, her powerful arms swinging to knock a drone out of the air. Her size, once seen as a curse, was now her greatest weapon. She smashed drones against walls, shielded her teammates, and lifted heavy debris to protect those under fire. When a massive support beam began to fall, threatening to crush Elias, Karelsha was there in an instant. She threw herself under the weight, holding it up with every ounce of strength she had. The others escaped through the emergency exit, shouting thanks and awe. When the last crew member was safe, Karelsha let the beam fall with a heavy thud and sank to the ground, breathing hard. Elias knelt beside her, his face serious but kind. "You saved my life," he said quietly. Karelsha looked up, her chest rising and falling. "I was too big for them, but maybe I am just big enough." Elias smiled. Back on the Resolute, the crew gathered in the mess hall. There was laughter and relief, but also a new respect for Karelsha. She sat quietly, still feeling the weight of what had happened. Her strength was no longer something to hide, it was what had saved them all. Elias approached her, sitting down across the table. "Not many would have done what you did," he said. "You are more than your size. You are a warrior." Karelsha's golden eyes met his. "I have learned this here with you." Elias nodded. "There is more to learn and more to prove, but you have already come far." That night, Karelsha stood once more by the observation window. The stars were silent witnesses to her quiet promise to be strong not just in body but in heart. She thought of the auction hall and the cold eyes that had looked at her with fear and disdain. Here, she was seen. Here, she was wanted. The journey was far from over, but for the first time, Karelsha believed that she belonged. The Resolute drifted through the cold darkness of space, the asteroid belt stretching around them like a vast, broken sea. Jagged rocks floated silently, some small as pebbles, others larger than entire buildings. The ship's lights cut through the shadows, but the danger was always close. Karelsha stood on the bridge, watching the endless stars and floating stones. Her golden eyes were sharp and alert. She had come a long way from the auction hall on Virex 9. Now she was not just a prisoner or a weapon. She was a protector. The crew worked quietly, trusting each other in the tension of the mission. Elias sat in the captain's chair, calm but focused. He glanced at Karelsha and gave her a small nod. Suddenly, the ship's alarm sounded, bright, urgent warnings flashing across the control panels. "Pirate drones detected." Jorlek called out from his station, his fingers flying over the controls. "Prepare for defense," Elias ordered. "Karelsha, you and Tessa get to the cargo hold and protect the supplies. Others man the weapons." The Resolute shook as small drones zoomed toward them, sleek and deadly, their glowing red eyes fixed on the ship like hunters. Karelsha moved quickly, her large frame surprising even herself with its speed. The cargo hold was heavy with crates and containers. She and Tessa worked together, stacking the containers, to create barriers ready to fight. The drones attacked fast, firing pulses of energy that scorched the ship's outer hull. The Resolute rocked and shuddered under the assault. Karelsha swung her powerful arms, catching one drone out of the air and smashing it against the wall. It exploded in a burst of sparks. Tessa grinned. "Nice shot." More drones came, faster this time. Karelsha felt the heat of the blasts nearby, but she stood firm. Then, a loud crack echoed through the ship. "Structural damage in the lower decks," someone shouted. Karelsha knew this meant trouble. The ship's hull was breaking under the pressure of the attack. Suddenly, a massive support beam above the cargo hold began to crack, threatening to collapse and crush everything and everyone below. Elias's voice came through the comms. "Karelsha, if that beam falls, it will destroy the supplies and kill half the crew." Karelsha's heart raced. Without hesitation, she reached up and grabbed the beam, her strong arms straining as the heavy metal groaned in protest. Pain shot through her muscles, but she did not let go. She held the beam steady, willing it to stay in place. The crew hurried, past her, escaping through emergency doors. Minutes felt like hours. Finally, the last of them were safe. Karelsha let the beam fall with a heavy crash, and she collapsed to the floor, breathing hard. Tessa was at her side in an instant. "Are you okay?" Karelsha nodded, though her arms trembled. "I am alive." Elias appeared in the doorway, his face serious but full of respect. "You saved us all," he said quietly. Karelsha looked up, feeling something warm inside her chest. "I was told I was too big," she said slowly, "but perhaps I am just big enough." Elias smiled. "You are more than enough." After the battle, the Resolute floated quietly, the crew working to repair the damage. Karelsha sat in the medical bay, her arms bandaged, but her spirit unbroken. Dr. Amina checked her carefully. "You are strong, Karelsha, but even the strongest need to rest." Karelsha smiled faintly. "I will rest, but I will never stop fighting." The crew gathered around her that evening, in the mess hall, sharing stories and laughter. For the first time, Karelsha felt like she belonged. Elias sat beside her, his eyes thoughtful. "There is more to your story," he said softly. Karelsha looked at him, her golden eyes steady. "My people cast me away. They saw only my eyes, not my heart." Elias nodded. "Sometimes others cannot see what makes us valuable, but you showed us today." Karelsha's gaze drifted to the stars outside. Her journey was just beginning. The Resolute drifted through the quiet depths of space, heading toward a busy trading station known as Port Kalan. For Karelsha, it was more than just a stop on their journey. It was a place where the past waited. For her, like a shadow she could no longer ignore. As the ship docked, Karelsha stood silently in the docking bay. She felt the eyes of the crew on her, curious, supportive, respectful. She had grown stronger in their company, but this place would test her in a way the stars never could. "Why are we stopping here?" she asked Elias as they walked through the corridor. "There's news from your home," Elias said carefully. "Your clan. Some of them want to speak with you." Karelsha's heart tightened. She had thought her people had forgotten her, or worse, wished she was forgotten. But the message had come through the Terran Alliance's communication channels. The Torvani clan leaders wanted to meet. The thought brought a mix of anger and fear. Would they welcome her back? Or would they only see her as the failure she had once been? Port Kalan was a large station, filled with the noise and movement of thousands of beings from every corner of the galaxy. The smells of different foods, the chatter of many languages, and the buzz of commerce filled the air. Karelsha walked alongside Elias and two guards as they made their way to a meeting room. Her steps were steady, but inside she felt the weight of old wounds. The doors slid open, revealing a group of tall, proud Torvani warriors. Their armor was polished, their faces stern. At the center was Vorak, the clan leader who had once sold Karelsha at the auction. Vorak's eyes narrowed when he saw her. "So, you have returned," he said coldly. "Or rather, you have been found." Karelsha stood tall, meeting his gaze without fear. "I am here," she said simply. The other clan members whispered among themselves. Some looked curious, others disdainful. Vorak stepped forward. "You left us when we needed. Warriors, you were too big for our purposes. Why should we listen to you now?" Karelsha's voice was calm but firm. I left because I was cast out, because you did not see my worth. But I have survived. I have fought. I have found new strength. On a ship with those who value me for who I am. She looked around the room. I am not here to beg. I am here to show that I am more than your judgment. The silence was thick. Then a Torvani woman stepped forward. We have heard of your deeds, she said. The humans speak of your strength and honor. Vorak's expression hardened. The humans may be foolish, but they are not us. Karelsha nodded. No. But they see beyond size and armor. They see the heart. Elias watched quietly from the side. When the conversation grew tense, he spoke. I know Karelsha well, he said. She is a warrior and a leader. Her size is not a weakness but a gift. Vorak looked at Elias with suspicion but said nothing. Karelsha stepped forward. I challenge you, Vorak, not to battle, but to a test of honor. The room murmured in surprise. A test? Vorak asked, raising an eyebrow. Yes, Karelsha replied. A challenge to show what we truly value, strength of spirit, endurance, and survival. Vorak hesitated, then nodded slowly. Very well. We will meet on the ground of the old rites, tomorrow at dawn. That night, Karelsha prepared for the challenge. She sat quietly in her cabin, thinking about the journey that had brought her here. Her mind traveled back to the auction hall, to the cold looks, to the moment Elias had offered her freedom. She remembered the crew who had accepted her, and the battle in the asteroid belt where she had saved their lives. She knew the test ahead would not be easy. It was not just about strength. It was about proving who she was beyond her size. At dawn, Karelsha and Vorak met on the open plains of a training ground outside Port Callan. The sky was a soft blue, and the air was cool with morning mist. Around them stood Torvani warriors and curious onlookers. Vorak spoke first. Your strength is known, but strength alone does not make a leader. Karelsha nodded. True strength is more than muscle. It is survival when all odds are against you. The test began with a series of trials, not just physical but mental and spiritual. They ran through the rugged terrain carrying heavy loads. They faced puzzles that required patience and clear thought. They endured harsh weather, refusing to give up. Throughout it all, Karelsha held steady. Her body ached, but her spirit was unbroken. At the end of the day, she stood before Vorak once more. I have not only survived, she said, breathing hard. I have grown. The clan members looked at her with new respect. Vorak's face softened. You have proven yourself, he said quietly. Perhaps we were wrong to cast you out. Karelsha did not smile. It is not about proving to you. It is about knowing my own worth. Back on the Resolute, Karelsha returned to the crew with a new light in her eyes. The test had been difficult, but it had shown her something important. Her past did not define her future. Elias greeted her warmly. You did well. Karelsha smiled. I learned that worth is not given. It is taken. Her place on the ship was no longer just a chance. It was a new home. The stars beyond awaited, full of challenges and hope. And Karelsha was ready. The Seo Resolute left Port Callan behind, its engines humming steadily as it slipped back into the vast blackness of space. Karelsha stood on the bridge, feeling the steady pulse of the ship beneath her feet. The challenge with the Torvani clan had tested her in many ways, but it had also given her new strength and confidence. Elias approached quietly, standing beside her. You've changed since we left the station. Karelsha turned, her golden eyes meeting his. I have learned much about myself. I am no longer afraid of my past. Elias nodded. Good, because what lies ahead will test you in ways we have not seen yet. Karelsha's brow furrowed. What do you mean? Elias looked at the navigation screen. Our sensors have detected unusual activity near the Rimstar cluster. Something is moving through the asteroid fields, something large and deliberate. The crew gathered, tense and alert. Jorlek's fingers flew over the controls as he brought up images of massive ships moving slowly but purposefully between the asteroids. Pirates? Karelsha asked. Not the usual kind, Elias replied. These ships are too organized, too well equipped. They seem to be searching for something. Karelsha's heart quickened. Could it be related to the colony we tried to help? Possibly, Elias said. We need to find out before they cause more harm. The Resolute changed course, heading toward the coordinates where the strange ships had been last seen. The asteroid belt grew thicker and more dangerous, with huge rocks drifting dangerously close. Karelsha worked alongside Tessa, helping to prepare the ship's defenses. Every creak of the hull, every beep of the sensors reminded her that danger was close. As they moved deeper into the asteroid field, the Resolute was suddenly rocked by a powerful blast. Warning lights flashed everywhere. Shields at 50%, Jorlek shouted. They're attacking. From the viewport, Karelsha saw sleek, dark ships emerging from behind massive rocks. Their weapons glowed menacingly. Return fire, Elias ordered. The crew sprang into action. Lasers and energy blasts lit up the darkness as the Resolute fought to defend itself. Karelsha moved to the cargo hold, ready to protect vital supplies and crew members. Her size was a shield as much as a weapon. She caught falling crates and helped injured crew members to safety, but the battle was fierce. The enemy ships were relentless, coordinated in their attacks. The Resolute took heavy damage. During a brief lull in the fighting, Elias called Karelsha to the bridge. We need to find their command ship, he said. If we can disable it, the rest might retreat. Karelsha nodded. I will help. With a plan, the crew prepared a small boarding team. Karelsha, Elias, Tessa, and a few others boarded a shuttle, heading toward the largest enemy ship. Lurking behind an asteroid, the shuttle slipped through narrow gaps in the rocky field, finally docking at the enemy vessel's airlock. Inside, the ship was cold and silent, with dark corridors lit only by red emergency lights. Karelsha led the way, her steps echoing in the empty halls. They moved cautiously, aware that enemy forces could appear at any moment. Suddenly, a group of hostile guards appeared, blocking their path. Karelsha did not hesitate. She charged forward, using her strength to push them aside. The crew followed her lead, fighting with determination. The battle was close, but they pushed forward, reaching the command room. Inside, they found the enemy captain, a tall figure in sleek armor, commanding with cold precision. Elias stepped forward. This ends now. Surrender. The captain sneered. You are outnumbered. You will fail. Karelsha stepped beside Elias, her voice steady. We do not fight because we want to, but because we must protect those who cannot protect themselves. The captain laughed, signaling his guards to attack. The fight was fierce. Karelsha used her size and strength to shield her teammates, breaking through enemy lines. Finally, Elias disabled the command console, and the ship's systems began to fail. The enemy captain snarled, realizing defeat, and the remaining ships started to withdraw. Back on the Resolute, the crew worked quickly to repair their ship. Though battered, their spirit was unbroken. Karelsha stood with Elias on the bridge, looking out at the stars. You showed great courage today, Elias said. You are not just big, Karelsha. You are a hero. Karelsha smiled softly. I fight for those who believe in me, for those who need hope. Elias nodded. And that is what makes you truly strong. As the Resolute set course for their next destination, Karelsha felt a deep sense of belonging. She was no longer defined by her past or her size. She was part of something greater, a family, a crew, a future. And no matter what dangers awaited, she would face them with strength and heart. The Resolute sailed quietly through the dark space beyond the Rimstar cluster. The battle with the mysterious ships had left the crew tired but hopeful. Karelsha stood on the bridge, her eyes fixed on the endless stars. She felt a deep calm now, something she hadn't felt in a long time. Elias approached, his expression serious. We've received a message from an unexpected source. Karelsha turned to him, curiosity sparking in her gaze. Who? It's from the Zalari, a species known for their wisdom and skill in diplomacy. They want to meet with us. Karelsha raised an eyebrow. The Zalari were respected across many systems for their fairness and knowledge. Why now? Elias shrugged. They believe the situation in the Rimstar cluster could affect many. They want to propose an alliance. The crew gathered to hear the news. An alliance with the Zalari could strengthen their mission and protect more lives. But Karelsha sensed that such agreements always came with risks. A few hours later, the Resolute arrived at the Zalari's home station, an enormous structure floating like a crystal in space. It was peaceful and bright, a sharp contrast to the harshness they had faced. They were greeted by Salari, the Zalari ambassador. Tall and graceful, with deep blue skin and bright eyes, Salari exuded calm and confidence. "Welcome, Resolute crew," Salari said with a warm smile. "We have watched your journey and your courage. We believe your strength can help bring balance to this region." Karelsha stepped forward. "We want to protect those who cannot protect themselves." Salari nodded. "And so do we." The meeting was long and detailed. The Zalari explained that the hostile ships attacking the Rimstar cluster were part of a larger force seeking to control key trade routes and resources. "Our scouts have reported their movements," Salari said. "They are dangerous and well-equipped. Alone, few can stand against them." Karelsha listened carefully. This was bigger than she had thought. "We propose a coalition," Salari continued. "Together, we can share knowledge, resources, and strength. We can protect the innocent and restore peace." Elias considered the offer. "What do you ask in return?" Salari smiled gently. "Only partnership and trust." Karelsha felt a flicker of hope. "Trust is earned, but I believe it can grow." Over the next days, the crew worked with the Zalari to prepare for joint patrols and defenses. Karelsha trained alongside Zalari warriors, learning new tactics and sharing her own experience. She found their ways different but valuable. The Zalari fought with precision and patience, while she relied on power and endurance. Together, they balanced each other. One evening, Karelsha sat with Salari in the observation deck, watching stars drift by. "Do you ever feel alone?" Karelsha asked quietly. Salari looked thoughtful. "At times, but I have learned that strength comes not only from power but from connection, from accepting help and giving it in return." Karelsha nodded slowly. "I used to think my size made me a burden. Now, I see it can be a gift, if I am willing to share it." Salari smiled. "And you have many willing to share with you." Suddenly alarms blared through the station. Red lights flashed as a warning echoed in the halls. "Enemy ships approaching," a voice shouted. The calm peace shattered instantly. Karelsha and the crew rushed to the weapons stations. The hostile fleet had followed them, and now they attacked the Zalari station. The battle was fierce. Energy blasts lit up the blackness outside, and explosions shook the massive structure. Karelsha felt the ground tremble beneath her feet but held steady. She fought alongside Zalari warriors, her strength breaking through enemy lines. The combined forces of the Resolute and Zalari pushed the attackers back, forcing them to retreat. When the fighting stopped, the station was damaged but still standing. Salari approached Karelsha, gratitude shining in her eyes. "Your courage saved many today." Karelsha smiled, feeling a warmth she had never known before. "We saved each other." In the quiet that followed, the alliance between the Resolute crew and the Zalari grew stronger. They shared stories, lessons, and hopes for the future. Karelsha realized that her journey had led her to this place, not just to fight, but to belong, to be part of something bigger than herself. Elias looked at her one evening. "You've changed this crew. You've changed the way others see strength." Karelsha smiled softly. "Maybe strength is not just in the body. Maybe it's in the heart and the bonds we build." Elias nodded. "And you have a big heart." Karelsha laughed lightly. "And a big body. Both have their uses." As the Resolute prepared to leave the Zalari station, Karelsha stood on the bridge ready for whatever came next. The stars outside shone brightly, full of promise, challenge, and hope. She was no longer alone. She was home. The Resolute sailed steadily through the quiet void, leaving the Zalari station behind. Karelsha stood on the bridge, feeling the gentle hum of the ship beneath her feet. The journey had been long and hard, but she had grown in ways she never imagined. She looked at the stars, each one a reminder of the countless lives they had touched and protected. Beside her, Elias spoke quietly. "You have changed many things, not just for yourself, but for everyone on this ship." Karelsha smiled softly. "I was once seen only for my size, too big, too different. But now, I know my true worth." Elias nodded. "You showed us all that strength comes in many forms. Your courage, your heart, that is what makes you strong." The calm did not last long. Suddenly, the ship's sensors beeped urgently. "Captain, we are receiving a distress call from the nearby colony on Valtor," Jorlik reported. "They are under attack from pirate forces." Karelsha's eyes sharpened. "Set a course. Immediately. We can't let them suffer like that." The crew moved quickly, preparing the ship for battle. Karelsha gathered her team, their faces steady and determined. "We've fought hard to protect others," she said. "Now it's time to stand together again. For the colony, and for what is right." As the Resolute approached Valtor, the battle became visible through the viewports. Pirate ships swarmed the planet's orbit, firing on the colony's defenses. Karelsha's heart pounded. She thought of the people below, families, children, workers, innocent lives at risk. "Prepare for combat," Elias ordered. "We'll break their formation and give the colony a chance." The Resolute launched into the fight. Energy blasts tore through space as the ship weaved between enemy fire. Karelsha joined the crew at the weapons station, directing fire at pirate ships threatening the colony. The battle was fierce, but the crew's teamwork was stronger. With a powerful burst, they disabled the pirates' command ship, causing confusion and retreat. After the battle, Karelsha and Elias went down to the colony to meet the survivors. They found people shaken but grateful. One elder stepped forward, his eyes bright with respect. "You came when we needed help most. Your strength saved us." Karelsha felt a warmth inside. "We are all stronger when we stand together." The people invited Karelsha to speak before the gathered crowd. She shared her story, of being cast out, of finding new family on the Resolute, and of learning that true worth is never measured by size or strength alone. She told them, "You each have a place in this universe. Never let anyone tell you otherwise." The crowd cheered, their hope rekindled. Back on the ship, the crew celebrated quietly. The victory was theirs, but more than that, they had made a difference. Karelsha stood at the window, watching the stars once more. The journey had changed her, from a girl judged by her size to a leader known for her heart. Elias came beside her. "What will you do now?" Karelsha smiled. "Keep fighting for those who need us. Keep proving that worth is inside all of us." Elias nodded. "I am proud to stand with you." Karelsha turned to her crew, her family. "Together we are unstoppable." As the Resolute set course for new adventures, Karelsha knew her story was just beginning. No longer was she the girl no one wanted. She was a symbol of hope and strength. Her size was no longer a barrier, but a beacon, and in the vast universe, she had found her true worth. The end.